Funny times in football, funny times in West Ham. It looks, I'm recording this on Tuesday, so I'm not. This is going out on Tuesday night. I'm recording it on Monday. So things are subject to change. Obviously, a lot can happen overnight. Looks like the Benrahma deal is starting to fall through. If you watched the video yesterday, probably no surprise there, because I always suspected Josh King may well have been the one. If I had to put my house on one of them, it would have been that one. It does look like we've signed Craig Dawson, which is on loan. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about both those things a little bit later on in the video. What I want to deal with, first of all, is this power grab by football's elite, by the richest clubs. You'll all be aware of the story by now, but it is massive restructuring that seems to have come out of nowhere, that's got everybody talking, and even the government talking about intervening. And on the outside looking in, we maybe as West Ham fans should be quite pleased, or dare I say excited, about what might be about to happen. Why would we be excited? Well, because it would appear that we are the chosen ones. It appears that we may well have got into the castle before the drawbridge has been pulled up. Happy days, right? It appears that there may be 9 elite clubs who would be the custodians, let's say, of a whole new Premier League, 18-team Premier League with no parachute payments, with only 2 teams getting relegated each year, and a third team, which would be the 16th place team in the Premier League, going into a playoff, going into the Championship playoff. So even if you finish third from bottom in the Premier League, you still got a chance of staying up. It's to keep everybody insulated. The premise is also that there will still be a TV deal of sorts which will be shared around, but clubs will be able to generate their own revenue. I believe in the shape of 15 games, which usually would not be televised, which you can then sell on your own platform. So in West Ham's case, then there would be a certain amount of games that would be on Sky, certain amount of games on BT, certain amount of games on Amazon, and we would have 15 games that we could broadcast ourselves. So I guess we'd set up our own streaming service. You would sign up to West Ham United Television and you'd pay whatever. It looks like it might be 15 quid a pop, 40 quid a month, or something like that. There will be a subscription service. What that would allow the clubs to do, that would allow the clubs to bring in their own revenue, and in some way offsetting the fact that the fans aren't there. That in itself just appears to me to be a cynical financial plan just to get some money in, because surely it's just the fans not being there is only short term, right? That was meant to be the plan, at least. Excuse me. It would seem to be a good deal, but it's not. It's a terrible deal, and I really hope that West Ham take the moral high ground here and say no, because this is just bad. Because you know what, as a West Ham fan, you may have your own opinions. I don't want to be part of the elite. I don't want to be a part of this big boys brigade. I don't want to be cut off from the rest. I don't want to be one of the decision makers that decide what happens in the rest of football. One of the clauses that they're looking to put in is basically that the 9 omnipotent clubs, if you like, would be able to choose who gets to own the other clubs. Why? Why would that be the case? Why would we want to? Why should we be able to? It's none of our business. It would also see the 92 traditional league clubs turn to 90. So in essence, there would be 70 clubs, something like that, not including those operating at the top level. Now, the Premier League are dressing it up as a saviour's package. They're dressing it up as a way to save football. And by doing so, they would give the lower leagues 250 million. The first of which would be now. And you've got to remember, there's not even a deal in place now. They're just saying, look, we'll give you that now to future-proof it. But what you'd be signing up to if you took that money, because as I might have said earlier, they would cancel parachute payments, you would be signing up to the loss of a dream. There would be no more dream. And I'll tell you about a dream. And that dream would be Leicester City Football Club. Because believe it or not, Leicester City are not included in that footballing elite. That's just preposterous. There seems to be no value attached to the fact that Leicester have just recently won the league that Leicester are building a club. No value at all. In fact, I suspect that it's Leicester and the likes of them, and Wolves, let's say, who have prompted this manoeuvre. Because actually the top clubs are scared stiff of somebody doing a Leicester. Because what they want to do is they want to insulate themselves against any chance that anybody will come up and beat them, and what could best be described as having them doing an AC Milan. AC Milan, for those that you don't know, were in their heyday with Paolo Maldini and Franco Baresi and Ruud Gullit and Van Basten, were the giant of European football. They're now pretty much Juventus's doormat. They're lucky if Juventus actually wipe their feet on them at any point. They have slipped like you wouldn't believe. They were a European superpower. No, they're not. And the big clubs, I would imagine particularly Manchester United at this point, are scared stiff of something happening. Even Liverpool, and even though Liverpool's success is recent, they had enough time in the doldrums to know that they wouldn't be able to, that it can happen. That they can slip, and not quite into obscurity, but into irrelevance, let's say. Why would this benefit the top clubs? Well, it would benefit the top clubs, quite frankly, because the top clubs would get more money. Let's say if you have a match and you're promoting it on your own platform, West Ham United Television, as I said earlier, West Ham will get X amount of subscribers. Manchester United will get a huge number. 10, 15, 20, 50, 100 times more than West Ham. So the disparity becomes even greater. Whilst we would think we were insulating ourselves, future-proofing ourselves from the very worst happening, we wouldn't be. The divide would continue to grow. And there'd be nothing you could do at that point, because rather than at the moment, which 14 clubs have to vote on something, it would only be 9 clubs that would, and only 2/3 of those 9, which is actually 6 clubs, would have to pass a motion. Only 6 clubs would have to vote on the same thing to ratify it. And what about the rest of the Premier League? They wouldn't get a vote? I mean, that's a little bit odd. Because I do think the very basis of sport, the very essence of sport, is competition. I've said this many times before. The best cricket match you ever saw went to the last ball. The best boxing, the best fight you've ever seen went to that knockout blow. You've only got to remember the first fight with Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. It's drama. People switch off from Formula One because it becomes processional, because Schumacher wins every race or Hamilton wins every race. You want to see competition. You want to see contest. The best football matches you've ever seen are not a 4 or 5-0 thrashing. They're 3-2. They're Liverpool 4, Newcastle 3. They're classics like that. And there's a reason, because it's sport and it's competition and it's meant to be competitive. And if these clubs get their way, football as a competition will more or less cease. It will become boring. It will become processional. For some reason, these clubs look at Italy, they look at Germany, they look at France, and they think we want some of that. Why do they want some of that? Because they don't have parity in the way that the broadcasting deals are distributed. At the moment, yes, you get a bit more if you finish at the top, but more or less, it's an even spread. That keeps it relatively honest. That keeps it relatively even. That's why Leicester can win the league title, and then Chelsea win the league title, and then Man City win the league title, and then Liverpool win the league title. Maybe Manchester United win the league title. Maybe Tottenham will get close. But the point of the matter is, there is not some massive disparity between all the clubs that means it is impossible. If this decision goes through, then that will never happen, and it can't be allowed to happen. And we mustn't think selfishly. We mustn't think, oh, we're going to do this just to save West Ham because we can be one of the 9. It would just be wrong. It would be absolutely morally wrong, because there's a lot of other clubs who would suffer. It kills the dream. It kills the dream for Nottingham Forest. Why shouldn't Nottingham Forest be able to dream? They've won 2 European Cups. It's not beyond the realms of possibility that we've been there, that we find ourselves in Forest's position in the past, that we've been in the lower divisions. It's not fair to cut off those supporters' dreams who have had enough of a hard time as it is. And shame on the clubs. Shame on those big clubs for doing that at this particular time. As I say, I was rather hoping that there would be a certain amount of humility with those football clubs. But there ain't. Anyway, it's nice to see that the government are intervening. They've suggested that they might well have an inquiry about how football's run. They should have an inquiry how football's run. It's absolutely preposterous that the FA, the Football Association, have little or no power at all. At all. A lot of it's their fault. They relinquished it because at the very start, they started up with the FA Premier League. That's what it's called, the FA Premier League. The FA were part of that. It was really, half of it was a bit of a cynical ploy to try and stitch up the English Football League. But they were part of the initial process, at which Rick Parry was a member. It's also Rick Parry now who's driving this latest scheme. Funny enough, Rick Parry also used to be chief executive of Liverpool. So when you hear him on there saying he's trying to do the best thing for the lower league clubs, I'd take that with a pinch of salt. I think it's a bad idea. I think it's a horrendous idea. I think it's bad for football. It's bad for sport. And I think it's morally very, very wrong. Just to quickly finish, I just want to say on the Craig Dawson thing, I feel sorry for him. I'm sorry, I'm aware my video cut a little bit short yesterday. I don't know what happened with the editing or whatever it might have been. He's just a guy signing for a club. He might not be the best defender in the world or anything like that, but clearly we need some backup. Clearly we need some defensive reinforcements. It's not his fault. I just feel sorry for him because what he becomes is a representation of everything that's wrong with our owners, with our transfer window, with our transfer strategy. So people see Craig Dawson, they don't think, oh, Craig Dawson. They see Craig Dawson and think, that there is exactly what I hate about this transfer window. That's what I hate about Sullivan. That's what I hate how this is done wrong, what's gone wrong. He might be okay. He's only coming on a year's loan, which I think works out really well for all clubs. I think it works out well for Watford because it gets a relatively high earner off their wage bill, bearing in mind they've dropped down to the Championship. Might never come back if the big clubs get their way, by the way. I think that really helps them out. I think it's not a massive signing for us. We're taking on a player on loan on 30 grand a week wages, which we've more than saved with other players as well. It ticks the box of bringing in an additional defender in, so we're not getting squeaky bum time. And he might be all right. I've got no ill feeling towards Dawson at all. I really don't. And I just hope he doesn't become the whipping boy or the poster boy of what has been quite frankly, a comedy transfer window, which shows no sign of relenting, by the way. As I say, this video could get old very, very quickly because it's Monday night. By the time it gets to Tuesday and I push publish on this, I don't know what's going to happen with Benrahma, but it looks like that deal is falling through, and I've not seen a single reason why. why it is really. I mean, as I say, if you'd have seen the video yesterday, I did suspect. I said if I had to bet on one of them going through, it would be King for all the reasons that I said in yesterday's video, which I won't repeat now. But it just makes you think, well, why was this Benrahma deal ever even talked about? I don't even know. Very, very strange. Anyway, catch up with you tomorrow.